Hi there. So my name is Avni Bariwale. I'll be talking to you a little bit about how I got into Google Summer of Code and a little bit about why I disagree with a lot of a lot of people online, I should say. I won't say shills. I won't go as far as to say shills. A lot of people online for how exactly you should go about trying to get into Google Summer of Code. So my story is a bit unique. So I am one of two contributors for, or I was one of two contributors for OpenMS. So OpenMS spectrometry. OpenMS is based in Germany, and I'd actually heard about OpenMS before I had heard about Google Summer of Code, which is only about 2 weeks before the deadline, actually. So about 2 weeks before the deadline, then where I'll start, I saw a bit about Google Summer of Code on like a LinkedIn post, and I was like, ooh, cool. And I dove a bit into the organizations, and I saw OpenMS. I was like, damn, okay, well, this is my opportunity to, take advantage of my niche. And this is, I've got it like written down, like what I want to say a little bit. This is like one of the points that I want to highlight. Okay. I would say the main point I want to highlight is take advantage of your niche when you're choosing an organization. So another niche that I have is OS stuff. So I'm not like a god at, or I don't know like all the trivia about like threading and like all of the low level back end stuff. But I've dabbled in Bash, and I'm like a lifelong distro hopper. So if you know what those two things mean, I know a little bit about OS stuff. And that was one of the niches that I wanted to pursue. So I saw on, Google Summer of Code that Fedora was also on there. So, and I reached out to one of the mentors for Fedora, and they just didn't respond. So I kind of pivoted completely to OpenMS at that point, even though I was kind of already in OpenMS. So anyway, 2 weeks before the project deadline, I had like stumbled upon OpenMS. I'd stumbled upon their list of projects, which was kind of cool. So I chose one that was not too easy. Kind of another thing that just came up then. I should write down. Is don't choose a project that's too easy. There was one that was like making a very, very simple web app. Don't make a very, very simple web app. Because you'll do it in like 5 seconds with cursor. And they know that. So don't choose that kind of project because it literally like will just not get chosen. Even though it says it's one of their ideas. So try to choose something of medium difficulty where you still know the topic, but it's not crazy. So, my, what is the word for middle ground? My middle ground then, was essentially choosing, the project, to integrate Apache Parquet into OpenMS's build system. I didn't even know what build systems were at that time. I barely knew what Apache Parquet was, but I Googled it, or I DuckDuckGo'd it, and I kind of figured it out. It's like a columnar format. It's like CSVs, but in like columns instead of rows. So I learned a bit about it, and I reached out to the mentor for that project. And I was like, hey, I have heard about you guys, so I actually do some research, bit of background knowledge, why I'm saying you should really try to have a niche in Google Summer of Code. Bit of background. I do some research in computational proteomics. So OpenMS is computational mass spectrometry. So very, very adjacent. And I know their lab not personally. I know where their lab is and all that stuff. And so I do research in this field. I talked a bit about my research. We talked a bit about his research. We connected as people and not mentor, mentee, or whatever. So that was nice. I think another thing that I want to highlight here is try to get to know people very early. Or just try to get to know people. You don't want to be the person that writes out their entire proposal and then just before the actual deadline, you submit it to your project mentor and you're like, can I have some feedback? No, you need to talk to people. I think the most important part of getting into Google Summer of Code is talking to people and showing your appreciation for an organization or this niche that you want to pursue. So in my case, this niche would be, research in computational proteomics or computational mass spectrometry. Both very adjacent. I won't delve into it. So we talked a bit about that. See, that was number 3, communicative people. We talked a bit about that. And in the next 2 weeks, I sat down, tried to learn as much as I could about A, build systems, and B, about the motivation for this project. What exactly is it doing? So in my case, the reason that I was integrating Apache Parquet at all was to further the larger goal of making of helping out, essentially, I should say, of helping out researchers and their work with AI. So as we're getting into more big data systems, we need file formats that can be parsed faster and faster by large language models, by big data models, all that kind of stuff, which is where Apache Parquet comes in. It is significantly faster on most types of data to use Apache Parquet over a CSV, for example. So I kind of added parts of that onto the original idea, and this goes along well with pursuing your niche. So if you have a niche, this niche should be able to inform your goals and inform the decisions that you make. So the decision that I made then was seeing this problem that MZML, so the standard data format for mass spectrometry, didn't really have a good way of being put into a Parquet format. So it wasn't really enough for me to just put it into the build system for someone else to solve it. I also wanted to make a converter so that this main mass spectrometry format could be converted into Parquet. So use the tool that you're making, essentially, in my case at least. I'm not 100% sure how applicable this is to other projects, but try to always keep expanding your projects and thinking of more ways where you could do something unique. Because if 10 or 15 people apply for the exact same project in the exact same organization, you want to be able to put that unique spin on it and do something that those 9 or 14 other people aren't doing. So that's point 0.4 or 0.5. I don't even know. Okay, so continuing along with the story. Where was I? So through those 2 weeks, I kind of poured myself into the proposal. I made a bunch of mermaid diagrams. One with MZML and MZML formats, and then one with Apache Parquet formats, and showed the difference between the two. I talked a bit about my research. I talked a bit about why this was important to me, what problems I hoped it would solve. So again, really take that niche and force it hard. Because this is something that you should be into and not just, I want to get into Google Summer of Code. Anyway, so I did all that. I think this still goes along with the niche thing, by showing your appreciation for it. And you always, one of the major points I'll highlight here then is try to keep things as non-AI focused as physically possible, because I'm of the impression that anything that you create that is 100% AI generated, and AI like ideated, is something that is not your product. So it's not you that's delving into your niche, it's AI that's delving into your niche. Don't do that. And I think that writing things out yourself, it's clear that it's AI, usually. And B, if it's clear that it is AI, then writing things out yourself in your proposal kind of hits home the fact that, you care about this as well. And you will take the time to write it out. Yeah. Where was I? Okay, so I was talking about my proposal. So in my proposal, I highlighted a bunch of those things, where a bunch of those ideas where essentially, this is important for me, right? So I suggest that you do that as well. So let's see. I think, oh my gosh, perfect. So point 5, point 4, whatever point we're on. So point 5 or point 4 then is try to stay in contact with your mentor at like all times. I literally reached out to my mentor 2 weeks before the proposal deadline. I had done no contributions, even at the end, except for like one issue or something. But I was in constant, steady stream of like communication with my mentor. And I think that's really important because no one really wants to work with, someone who submits something at like the very end of the proposal deadline and they haven't said anything to their mentor up until that fact. So try to do that. Try to stay in communication. Always keep asking questions. Try to like narrow down the scope of your project or broaden the scope of your project if you'd like, to fit like both your needs, the needs of the organization and the interests that you have. So I think that's a good point. Let me think. Okay, I think I'll start to wrap this up then. So I think the major takeaway that you should take from this is, even if like you're only doing Google Summer of Code for the prestige or for the money or whatever, I think the best way of optimizing your chances to get into Google Summer of Code is by having something that you find genuinely interesting, knowing a good bit about it, and then taking that to someone and showing them that you care about it and that you know about it and that this is like a niche that you want to pursue further. Because computer science is a very, very broad topic. I doubt that there's like theory, computer science, Google Summer of Code organizations, but computer science is a very, very broad topic. And you can kind of choose who you want to be within computer science. So, even if you don't know what build systems are 2 weeks before the proposal, or you don't know C++, or you don't know CMake, like, just have some kind of passion, have something that you want to do, and show that you want to do that something. I think that makes the most impact in Google Summer of Code. But thank you for hearing me out. I'll see myself out. Thank you. Bye.